everyone, and welcome back to another Spanish lesson.
This is the second part in our series on the imperative mood, or simply commands in Spanish. And today we're going to go over informal commands for tú. So in the first part, we went over formal commands for usted and ustedes, and you can watch that video after this one. The link will be in the description below.
Part 3 on nosotros and vosotros commands will be coming soon. Okay, so what is the imperative mood?
Well, the imperative mood isn't solely to give direct commands. We can also do things like make requests. For example, bring the newspaper.
Trae el periódico.
We can give instructions like wait here.
Espera aquí.
We can offer advice like study more.
Estudia más.
We can give warnings, don't touch that.
No toques eso.
Or even encourage someone like do it.
Hazlo.
Now, informal commands are used when you want to address someone that you know well, such as a friend, a family member, or a peer. And they come in two forms: affirmative,
Telling someone to do something.
and negative.
Telling someone not to do something. Remember, with a kind tone and a por favor, commands in Spanish aren't considered rude.
Exactly. Now, let's first see how to conjugate informal commands.
For regular verbs, use the third person singular form of the present indicative tense.
So, exactly like él, ella, or usted in the present tense. Now, let's see an example of an AR, an ER, and an IR verb. Descansar would be descansa. So, for example, rest a little before continuing.
Descansa un poco antes de continuar.
Responder would be responde. So, we could say, answer the question correctly.
Responde la pregunta correctamente.
And permitir would be permite. So we could say something like, allow me to help you.
Permite que te ayude.
Now we know Spanish wouldn't be Spanish without a few regular verbs that don't want to follow the regular pattern. So here are some of the most common and important informal affirmative to commands, and you can pause the video if you'd like to write them down. So we can see here, decir isn't dice, but rather di, like tell the truth.
Di la verdad. Or we see, tener isn't tiene, but ten.
Right, for example, we could say, be careful.
Ten cuidado.
Now, negative to commands is where informal commands can get a little tricky.
That's because we conjugate them differently when they are negative. So if we have the verb descansar, first we take the yo form of the verb in the present tense. So descansar becomes descanso. Drop the O ending and add the opposite vowel ending. For AR verbs, add es. And for ER and IR verbs, add as. So we get descanses. Then we add a no in front of the verb and we'll get no descanses.
So for example, we could say something like, don't rest too much, we have a lot to do.
No descanses demasiado. Tenemos mucho que hacer. Now, for responder, we take the yo form of the verb in the present tense. So, responder becomes respondo. Drop the O ending and add the opposite vowel ending. Because it's an ER verb, we add as, respondas, and then we add a no in front of the verb. No respondas.
So for example, we could say something like, don't answer without thinking first.
No respondas sin pensar primero. Now, for permitir, take the yo form of the verb in the present tense. So permitir would become permito. Drop the O ending and add the opposite vowel ending. Because permitir is an IR verb, we add as, permitas. And then we add a no in front of the verb. No permitas.
So for example, we could say, don't allow anyone to treat you badly.
No permitas que nadie te trate mal. Here we can see the verbs that have irregular negative forms. And you can pause the video if you want to write them down.
Notice how some of the irregular verbs for affirmative commands are now regular when conjugated in the negative command form. We said this part is a little tricky. So let's do two quick examples. How would it be if we said, don't go outside, it's raining?
No vayas afuera, está lloviendo.
Or, don't be impatient, wait a little.
No seas impaciente. Espera un poco.
Next, it's important to note that direct object pronouns, indirect object pronouns, and reflexive pronouns attach differently whether you use an affirmative or a negative command. If it's an affirmative command, the pronoun will attach to the end of the command, and then we'll add an accent to keep the original stress. For example, do it right now.
Hazlo ahora mismo.
Or read it carefully.
Léelo con atención.
Or write them a letter.
Escríbeles una carta.
So we see in all three, the pronoun attaches to the end, and we add our accent to keep the original stress.
Whereas for negative commands, pronouns precede the verb and are placed separately before it.
For example, don't do it now.
No lo hagas ahora.
Don't read it without permission.
No lo leas sin permiso.
Don't write to them yet.
No les escribas todavía.
So, for negative commands with pronouns, we have the no, then the pronoun, and then the verb.
Okay, before we get into all our other examples, we want to thank our supporters and members. Your support really helps us create these videos and improve your Spanish.
Yeah, and if you'd like to become a member, we'll have all the links in the description of this video. We have links to Patreon memberships, to YouTube memberships, to buy me a coffee. So it's really easy to sign up or donate. Also, if you're enjoying this video, please give us a like, subscribe to the channel if you still haven't, and share these videos so that our lessons can reach more and more Spanish students just like you. Thank you so much.
Remember, we use commands for direct commands to make requests, give instructions, offer advice or warnings, or for encouragement.
And that's a lot, so let's go over a wide variety of examples using affirmative and negative commands so that you really get this down. And in just the first few, we'll go through the process of how to conjugate them, and then we'll speed up and go a little bit faster. So if we have the affirmative informal command, close the curtain, please, we need the verb cerrar. So we conjugate into the present tense, third person singular, and we get cierra.
Cierra la cortina, por favor.
Now, if we have the negative informal command, don't drive so fast, it's dangerous, we need the verb manejar. So first, we take the yo form of the verb in the present tense, so manejar becomes manejo. We drop the o, and we add our opposite vowel ending. Since manejar is an AR verb, we get manejes. And then we add our no in front.
No manejes tan rápido, es peligroso.
Now, if we have a reflexive affirmative command like get up early, we need the verb levantarse. So we conjugate into the present tense, third person singular, levanta, and then we add our pronoun to the end and add our accent to keep the original stress. So we get
levántate temprano.
If we have a reflexive negative command like don't fall asleep in class, we need the verb dormirse.
First, we take the yo form of the verb in the present tense. So dormir becomes duermo. Then we drop the o ending and add the opposite vowel ending. Because it's an IR verb, we add as, duermas. So we put the no, then the pronoun, then the verb, and we'll get no te duermas en clase.
Okay, let's try and go a little bit faster now. See if you can say the command along with Darcy. So if we have the negative command, don't put the tray in the oven before reading the recipe.
We need the verb poner. So we get pongas. No pongas la charola en el horno antes de leer la receta.
And if we have the affirmative command, mix the ingredients a little more.
We need the verb mezclar. So we get mezcla. Mezcla los ingredientes un poco más.
And what if we have the affirmative command, take one pill in the morning and one at night?
We need the verb tomar. So we get toma. Toma una pastilla en la mañana y una en la noche.
And if we have the negative command, my comics are not trash. Don't throw them away.
We need the verb tirar, so we get tires. And we also need the direct object pronoun for comics in the second sentence. So we get mis cómics no son basura, no los tires.
And we can even use affirmative and negative commands together. For example, keep going, don't give up.
We need the verbs seguir and rendirse, and we'll get sigue and te rindas. So that would be sigue adelante, no te rindas.
Now, what about if we have the affirmative command, have faith in yourself?
We need the verb tener, and we'll get ten. Ten fe en ti mismo.
Now, we saw earlier that ser is negative for both negative and affirmative commands. So if we wanted to say something like be patient,
we would get sé paciente.
And if we wanted to say don't be rude,
we would get seas, no seas grosero.
Now, if we have the reflexive affirmative command, put on the jacket,
we need the verb ponerse, and we would get ponte la chamarra.
But what if we wanted to change this sentence to use a direct object pronoun? What would we use?
La chamarra becomes la, so we would get póntela.
And what about if we wanted to use the pronouns in a negative command, it's like to say, don't put on the jacket?
So poner would become pongas, and we'll get no te la pongas.
Now, what if we have the negative command, don't talk with your mouth full?
We need the verb hablar, so we get hables. No hables con la boca llena.
And what about if we have the negative command, don't give your personal information to strangers?
We need the verb dar, so we get des. No des tu información personal a desconocidos.
And that's it for this lesson. Don't forget to give us a like, subscribe to the channel if you still haven't so you don't miss any more lessons like this.
Now watch this video to keep improving your Spanish.
Until next time.